Now that you've watched the benefits of an effective health, safety, and environmental program video, you're probably asking yourself, what's the next step? How can I start or get assistance in building these effective programs? In this video, I'm going to take you through an exercise where we'll build an actual safety program from start to finish. And you'll begin to see that it doesn't have to be a strain on your company's time and resources. During this process, one thing to keep in mind is that the programs you choose to implement should be specific to the actual work and tasks being performed by your employees. Before we push ahead, let's talk about time and resources. If either of these has been holding you back, here are a few resources to offer assistance and may save some time at little to no cost. They are Safe Work Australia, your state's work cover or WorkSafe authority, and finally, your insurance company. By contacting one of these agencies, you'll find the tools and direction you need, such as sample programs, form templates, and reference links to aid your company's goal of putting an effective program in place. Make use of these resources, as they're only a phone call or mouse click away. So as we begin building a program, let's discuss certain requirements that should be included in every program. An effective program must address management commitment and employee involvement, an overarching HSE policy written and endorsed by your company's senior management, tools such as assessments for identifying hazards specific to the work you will be performing, and provisions to provide and document employee training. And to ensure the program is successful, an effective program should explain work procedures that will keep your employees safe, be specific to the work your company is actually performing, be written and available to all employees, and be effectively implemented throughout your company. We are now ready to take you through the exercise of building a personal protective equipment program for our model landscaping company, Sample Lawn Services. Let's start by covering the 5 key sections of a typical HSE program. Each program should start with a purpose. The purpose could be one sentence that explains to your employees why this program is in place and why it's important to the company and the employee's safety. The next section is called the scope. The scope explains who in your company is covered and who needs to comply with the procedures listed within the program. Scope is followed by definitions. That lists any unfamiliar words or terms within the program, as well as the routine and non-routine tasks listed that employees may or may not be required to perform. This helps employees understand what they should and should not be doing. The 4th section, titled Procedures, is usually the largest section of the program and includes the requirements employees must follow to comply with the program, such as identifying the visible and potential hazards associated with the task they're about to perform, assessing the PPE requirements necessary to perform the work safely, explaining and ensuring employees' understanding of the company's emergency preparedness procedures, and reinforcing the company's health and safety rules as well as the consequences in place of the program. Of course, there's non-compliance, and then listing and providing the training requirements of this program that are offered to the employee so that they can perform the work in a safe manner. And finally, an effective program should include references section, guiding employees to regulatory or company links that will provide them with further information on this specific topic. Okay, now that we've covered the key sections comprising the company's HSE program, let's go over some background information on our model company. Sample Lawn Services is a landscaping company that conducts residential lawn services, including mowing, trimming of both edges and hedges, and cleanup. The company consists of 15 employees, which includes 2 supervisors. And important to note, tree trimming, which would require another set of safety programs such as working at heights, is not a routine function of this company. Let's start at the beginning and develop our company's purpose. The purpose of Sample Lawn Services' Personal Protective Equipment PPE program is to ensure all employees have proper PPE prior to completing their assigned work tasks. That's it. That's our purpose. Short, sweet, and to the point. Anyone reading this would know exactly why the specific program was written. Let's move on and identify the scope of our program, which will explain who needs to comply with this program's requirements. This PPE program covers all company personnel at all levels, including management. Again, short, sweet, and to the point. One important thing to note is that both employees and management are required to comply with the program. This is important as employees tend to follow the examples set by their supervisors. Now it's time to include our company's specific definitions section. which will include an explanation of any unfamiliar terms or acronyms used, as well as a description of both the company's routine and non-routine tasks. Routine tasks. Common tasks that are conducted during lawn care services such as lawn mowing, line trimming, and hedge trimming. Non-routine tasks. Those tasks that are not conducted on a regular basis, such as mowing on steep grades and tree trimming. When performing these non-routine tasks, there must be a supervisor approval, hazard identification, and additional training and PPE as required. Again, in sample lawn services case, the definitions section alerts the employees to tasks they are expected to complete and those that are out of the normal scope of work. As stated in the program, to complete these tasks, there will need to be supervisor approval and additional training prior to beginning a non-routine task. We're now ready to get into the meat of the program, the procedures section, which lists the actual PPE program requirements. We'll use a hazard assessment form to assist us in identifying our PPE needs. This form is one of many simple examples that are available on various websites. As we look at the form, you can see we start by listing the job that is taking place. In this case, it would be lawn trimming. This assessment shouldn't be a difficult task to complete if the person performing it understands what hazards are involved. The first step in completing a hazard assessment form is to fill in the top line listing the jobs to be performed, the name of the assessor, and the date of the assessment was performed. Following that, the assessor needs to give a description of the actual task that's about to take place. And then, based on that task description, the hazards associated with that task need to be listed. And finally, the controls that need to be implemented to protect the employees from these hazards needs to be addressed. Now that we've completed the assessment form, let's continue with the procedures section of our program. Based on the work that Sample Lawn Services performs, they've come up with 11 specific requirements that need to be included in their company's PPE program. Those requirements can be listed in the following manner and are relatively self-explanatory. A hazard assessment should be conducted prior to starting work. As discussed before, the first procedure states that a hazard assessment needs to be completed before starting any work. The assessment will dictate what PPE will be needed to safely perform the task at hand. Based on the assessment, the company will provide eye, head, face, foot, hand, and body protection as needed. The next procedure identifies the actual PPE that will be provided by the company for employees to wear. Required PPE will be provided at no cost to all applicable employees. Your program should ensure that the company will provide the proper PPE and, if necessary, replacement PPE at no cost to the employee. All PPE provided will meet all applicable Australian New Zealand standards and properly fit each employee. The PPE provided needs to meet all regulatory standard requirements for safety. Employees are responsible for maintaining PPE in a clean, sanitary, and reliable condition. Employees must understand that since they are the users of the PPE, they have a responsibility to maintain their PPE in good working order. Employees will return damaged or broken PPE to their supervisor, who will replace it prior to employee returning to work. Employees must also understand that if their PPE fails for any reason, they must return it and get replacement PPE in good working order before continuing with their work. The company typically prohibits the use of employee-owned PPE, therefore only PPE purchased by the company is allowed. The company allows only PPE purchased in-house to be used on the worksite as a safeguard to ensure that it meets regulatory standards. The company will ensure that documented training will be provided to each employee who is required to wear PPE, which includes when and where PPE is necessary, what PPE is necessary, how to properly put on, take off, adjust, and wear PPE, the limitations of the PPE, and the proper care, use, maintenance, useful life, and disposal of the PPE. The company needs to ensure that employees are trained in the proper use and care of the PPE that they are initially given. Like all employee training, this training is documented and stored for safekeeping. Employees will be retrained on PPE usage whenever they're not able to demonstrate their understanding of the PPE requirements or the ability to use it properly, or when there are changes in the types of PPE or work environment that renders the previous training obsolete. The company also needs to ensure that employees are retrained when there is a misunderstanding in the usage or change in the type of PPE supplied by the company. Employees who choose not to follow the safety and health rules of the company will be disciplined. Discipline will be progressive up to and including termination. Supervisors who are found accountable for employee actions will also be disciplined according to their level of accountability. Employees and supervisors need to be made aware of their accountabilities when it comes to following or implementing the company's rules and regulations for safety. And finally, all company safety and health programs will be reviewed and updated as needed, but no less than annually. There needs to be a process that the company uses to periodically review safety and health programs so as to ensure their applicability to the task performed. And finally, we get to the last section of the company's PPE program titled References. This is where a company supplies their employees with further information and tools on the safety topic covered. And in the case of building the Sample Lawn Services PPE program, we're done. We hope this exercise in building an effective health, safety, and environmental program has been of benefit to you and your company. The format shown here can be duplicated for almost all required state and territory programs. The key points to remember are: keep your program specific to the work you perform, utilize the resources mentioned in this video to assist or provide needed tools, and finally, ensure that the implementation and training of the programs you develop are documented and stored for safekeeping. Thank you again, and thanks for taking the time to watch this video.